So welcome to today's Greater Life CoffeeCast. And my invitation as we enter the pillar of hustle with our focus today is to embrace your Renaissance soul. And what do I mean by this? Well, this is a concept born of the idea of a Renaissance man, which is the idea of someone who is actually beyond merely a jack of all trades, is a master of many. And there's a wonderful book by David Epstein called Range, and it explores some counterintuitive wisdom and evidence that, in fact, in our world, generalists are really valuable, highly valuable, yet we have an education system that is set up for specialization. And that very often this comes at a cost. It comes at a cost of inhibited innovation. And it comes at a cost of, I guess, people living lives that are not as fulfilling as they could be because they feel they have to remain bound by the guardrails of their specialization that they've chosen. Maybe at the time of them choosing this path of specialization, actually they weren't really choosing under their own steam. It was more parental influence or societal influence that said you have to have a good job, right? And yet now here they are with houses and mortgages and such, and they are bound to this inevitable like railroad of specialization, and that there is a risk attached to leaving those tracks. And David Epstein's book really explores this notion that actually generalists bring something to the table that specialists can't. A capacity to benefit from an expanded worldview, a number of different perspectives and viewpoints, and therefore offer insights that are game-changing. And in my own life, I know that now what is, very clearly some form of, autistic spectrum, ADHD, sprinkling for me. I now see that the special interests I've had, which are a really key part of being able to manage ADHD, is to really allow those fascinations, those special interests. I see why it's been a challenge for me to just pick one, as so many coaches down the years have told me. I said, I'm really passionate about this poetry thing, and I, really make an impact with my poetry, and yet I just absolutely love, sparking new possibilities for people and seeing them come alive and transform before my eyes. And, I really love working with young people, and now I really love working with, the other end of the age spectrum. And so I share all of this because it's not so long ago that the idea of being a Renaissance soul, of being someone who could have multiple interests, and of course, Leonardo da Vinci is one who is often cited as, the quintessential Renaissance soul, Renaissance man. He was, of course, well versed and expert in anatomy, in inventions of all kinds, right? He mapped out helicopters before helicopters were a thing. Painting, of course. And so I share all of this reference to Da Vinci and Renaissance souls, because in today's newsletter article, I explore this question that very often gets asked. I'm like, oh, George, I'm interested in more than one thing, or like there's different strands to what I do. How do I share what I do? How do I get people to understand? And it's a really tricky question, because particularly, and I said in the article, particularly in today's world where attention spans are so short and the noise to signal ratio in terms of actual value that's out there is so poor, right? That people more than ever are just skimming, scanning, and, if they don't get what you do within, used to be maybe 30 seconds, now it's maybe perhaps if they don't get what you do within 10, they scroll on, right? And so this does present a challenge. How do we then, if we are someone who has multiple strings to our bow, How do we articulate this? How do we allow the full beauty on the full majesty, the fullness of our humanity to flourish and to be shared and to be understood? And more and more, I believe the answer lies in something that I heard, of course, Alex Hormozy, although I'm a big fan of his, talking about branding. And it lies in branding. And the idea that what Alex Hormozy was saying is that what are the words you want people to attach to what you do? And his suggestion was to not leave this to chance. And actually to give people the words that you would like them to say about you. And you might think, well, how do I do that? Well, just consistently is the answer, right? And what I mean here is, let's say, for example, that I want to be, this is, some of my kind of core values. The things I hope I bring to the world are inspiration, education, and transformation. Okay? Now, were I building a personal brand entirely around myself, right now, of course, it's focused on greater life, but were I building that personal brand entirely around myself, I would perhaps go about that in the following way. I would have, every week, I'd have maybe 2 videos each on inspiration, 2 videos each on education, and 2 videos each on transformation. I'd literally just put those words, George Hardwick's daily inspiration, bam, and that would be there. And I'd have an article saying, hey, here's your daily source of inspiration, right? So that every single day, those people who I hoped might be interested in what I'm up to would be seeing the words either inspiration, education, transformation. And across the course of 12 months, right, when we factor that across 52 weeks, and that's maybe 2 of those messages around inspiration, education, transformation per time a week, well, suddenly we start to get into the realm where someone has had the opportunity to see those words from me many hundreds of times, okay? And so the first thing then, of course, is actually, what do you want those words to be? What do you want people to say about you? And where we link this in with the idea of embracing your Renaissance soul is first, actually, what is the fullness that you daren't dream to dream, but yet, if anything was possible, what is the fullest expression of your soul upon this planet? What do you want it to be? Because there's where we start. Before we can even know the words to give to others so that they know what to say about us, they know what we're about. First, you must dare to dream what the fullness of your Renaissance soul might be. And in the coming weeks and months, I'm going to do that for myself with you. Because there are vast untapped areas of my personal fascinations, things around the likes of simulation theory, and why for me simulation theory actually is the bedrock and foundation upon which any great spiritual practice can be built. Whatever your religious bent or affiliation may be, I actually believe that simulation theory gives us a frame that dissolves the capacity for conflict and gives us very much a workable manual for genuinely creating our reality. And so I'm excited to share more about that, because as I have started to apply some of the principles, I'm seeing major shifts in my own personal life. And to the point where I'm having to really hold myself and be like, geez, wow. Is it okay for me to actually be happy and peaceful and to be creating the things that I want to be creating? It really is possible. And there are parts of me that have been so used to being traumatized, so used to self-loathing, that they're freaking out. The parts of me that have had the job thus far in my life of flooding my system with cortisol and maintaining a low-level fight or flight, high-level self-loathing way of operating, they don't know what to do with themselves. and I'm having to tend to them carefully as I apply some of these principles, and as I start to bring the fullness of my Renaissance soul to bear, and indeed, even deeper than that perhaps, as I allow myself to become a vessel for the unique signature and frequency of love that I am here to anchor into the world. And so more of all that to come. But today, two things. What are the words that you would want someone to consistently associate with you? What do you want them to know about you so that they can know what you're about? And, of course, first, before all that, what do you want to be about? What is the fullness, the majesty of your Renaissance soul?